They are held or easily within your reach. Also, we ask that you do not stand up and move around whatsoever while the train is in motion, keeping your head, hands, and feet inside the cars at all times. Eating and drinking is not permitted, but water from an enclosed water bottle is just fine. We are now heading over to Smiths Creek Station. Sit back and just enjoy the ride. We're going to say goodbye to Ken, our station master. Over to the left is the Susquehanna Plantation that was built in 1854 in Tidewater, Maryland. This particular plantation was 700 acres big. Tobacco was its cash crop. They also grew wheat and corn. Slaves were the ones that worked this plantation. There were 75 families that did work. When you do go into the home, a presenter will tell you about the plantation and the hardships that the slaves endured working for the Carroll family. Next to that is the Clifton family home, a single-room house built in the very early 1700s. It's our oldest American home that we have here at the village. Mr. and Mrs. Clifton raised 7 children in that very little home. And then we have the Ferris Windmill built in 1650 from Cape Cod, Massachusetts. It was a gift to Henry Ford from the Ford Motor Company workers across the country. The Daggett family farmhouse was built in 1754. Samuel Daggett is a carpenter and he built this home in Andover, Connecticut. Stop in and see what they're working on in the garden. There are raised garden beds growing all kinds of different vegetables. You'll get some tips on how to maintain your garden from them. We'll say hello to one of our Model T drivers. Just a word to everyone, beginning on July 8th, that's Thursday, the Model T cars will be returning. So you will be able to take a ride on the Model T car. Over to the left is the paddock that we have for our Percheron drag horses. You can see one is already taking advantage of a little rest and relaxation. Down in the distance, wild turkeys. They like what's going on here at our paddock. Inspired by Henry Ford's love of the railway, the staff over at the Henry Ford Museum in 1970 decided that they would build a 3-mile perimeter railway around the village. It's using standard gauge rails, and we have 3 steam locomotives that we use currently to move our passenger trains around the village during the season. And we also have 1 diesel electric. The locomotive pulling our train right now is the Torch Lake that was built in 1873. It happens to be the oldest running steam locomotive in the country. We also have the diesel electric that's going to be pulling our second train today. Maybe you might catch a ride on that one. Built in 1942, was donated by the United States Naval Ammunition Center, and we acquired it in 1996. It's used as a switcher to replace at the Edison or at the Torch Lake when necessary. We also have the Baldwin number 7 over at the Roundhouse. It was built in 1897. It was Henry Ford's favorite locomotive, and it pulled his passenger car. Do walk over to the Roundhouse today, view in through the big doors and take a look at our other steam locomotives. We also have the Atlantic that is not in use, but it was used back in the day at the Detroit train station. In front of us right now, we're heading into the Wildlife Preserve. It's about 11 acres big. Sit back and enjoy some of the sounds that a steam locomotive makes. Locomotive operates on just coal and water. Coal is fed into the firebox where it reaches the very high temperature, and that heats up the water in the boiler. When the water in the boiler gets so hot, it's converted into steam. Steam is then moved in to make the pistons move that moves our wheels. That's essentially how it works, but it's more complicated than that. Step over to the roundhouse and learn more about how steam locomotives and other rolling stocks we do have here. We are now coming into our Walnut Grove area, and it is here where we'll see a historic baseball game played according to the rules of 1867. We have our home teams, the Lottie Dogs and the Nationals, and they play against other Midwestern teams. They begin the game at 1:30, but if you want to escort them, they start arriving over at the town hall at 1:15, and a marching band will bring them over to Walnut Grove. I see that there are some people who have already brought their chairs. You'll see blankets coating the hillside too. I see we have some visitors there. It is quite the game. Sit down, please. It is quite interesting to see a game here because it is not played like the game that we know and so love, but it is how it began. And just up ahead is the Henry Ford Academy High School that was built in 1997. 10th through 12th graders have classes here, and over at the museum, the 9th graders have classes. This is a charter school that specializes in the STEAM program: science, technology, engineering, art, and math. It was Henry Ford who said, "Learning to do is by doing." These students get to take what they learned in the classroom and go into the museum or the village and see firsthand what it was that they studied. In these vintage railroad cars just up ahead, they were converted into classrooms, and they're reserved for the privileged seniors. This past year, we had 525 students that attended. Most of the time it was virtual. A new school year will begin this fall. To be a student here at the Henry Ford Academy High School, one must live in Wayne County, Michigan. After submitting an application, it's the luck of the draw that your application is approved so that you can attend high school here 4 years tuition free. The Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation is a nonprofit educational institution. It does not rely on monies from the Ford Motor Company or from the Ford Foundation. Instead, it relies on admission tickets from people like you who come to see the village or the museum. For those of you that are interested in purchasing a membership, you can use the monies that you spent on your tickets today towards a membership. Just coming back one or two more times makes it pay for itself. You can inquire over at guest services. We thank everyone for being here today, and we hope that you're going to have the best time ever. That is our Amtrak rails over off to the right. It comes from Detroit, travels to Dearborn, makes a stop. Then the next stop is Ann Arbor before it moves on to Chicago. To your left, we have a continuation of our Main Street district. Up the hill is the Martha Mary Chapel Henry Ford built in honor of his mother-in-law, Martha Bryant, and his mother, Mary Ford. Since 1935, many wedding celebrations were celebrated here in this non-denominational chapel. Maybe you know somebody that had a wedding here, or maybe it was you. Next to that is the Scott Settlement School, where Henry Ford attended early elementary, built in 1861. And then we have the Wilton County Courthouse, built in 1840 from Postville, Illinois. Young Abraham Lincoln tried cases on those very footboards. Do step in and learn more. The Taste of History is a restaurant where you will have a wide selection of foods to eat should you be looking for something for lunch or an early dinner. The recipes come from our historic farmhouses here, and food is locally sourced. Next to that is the Eagle Tavern Restaurant. When you step in through those doors, you're going to enjoy a historic dining experience from 1850. The waitstaff is dressed in period clothing. You'll be handed a menu with beverages and food selections from that time era as well. And the food is also locally sourced, fresh daily. We are now coming into our Railroad Junction district. It is here that you can see the Detroit-Toledo-Milwaukee Roundhouse, and also get a ride on the Herschel Spillman Carousel just down the street. As we come into the station, please remain seated. The engineer will set a brake and give us the sound of a single whistle, letting us know that it is safe to come off the train. You're going to exit to your left side of the station. And we'll say hello to our station masters, Ginger and Mike. And our conductor, Mary Ann.
And now we're going to get the roller off.